This is Wild Nevada. I'm Dave Santina, and today in studio at PBS Reno in Reno, Nevada, we have Jack Sutton. Now, if you've ever watched KTVN or 2 News Nevada, as they're called today, you've almost certainly seen Nevada Backroads with Jack Sutton. That's the series of stories about the people and places all around the state. Loads of stories over the years, and certainly you've seen him lately on weekends. I did last weekend, in fact, after a live sporting event. They love to put you on there and put a series of stories out, and I got to watch a whole bunch of them and just be impressed with the breadth and depth of all the stuff you do. And thank you for coming in today and talking about it.
Well, thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. And you've been doing these for longer than the Wild Nevada series has existed. We started doing that show in late 2000. You started before that, right?
1978.
Yeah, that's significantly before that.
Yeah, I didn't start out to be a journalist. It just sort of happened.
Yeah, what's the story there?
The story there, well, when I graduated from the University of Nevada in 1969, and then I stayed through 70 for a master's program in physiology. Had to go on active duty for a little bit. I was a ROTC up here in Nevada. And after that, I went to grad school, came back into the military in the Army Medical Department at that time. And then when I left for the second time, I came home. And that was in 78. That was right when the jogging craze was going in America. And bless their hearts, there's still some joggers out there. And in 78, a friend of mine, Stephen Dow, he's an orthopedic surgeon, Frank Roberts, family practitioner, myself and some others, started the Heart Fitness Institute of Nevada. And then we also started, along with Jarman Sharp and Jim Lawton, some others, the Silver State Striders. So I was really into that and quite fit. I don't get out and jog like I used to.
Who does?
Of course, who does, yeah. But, and then a friend of mine, Buddy Frank, might ring a bell. Buddy was in journalism. He graduated from Nevada here. He was the editor of the Sagebrush newspaper. And he gets a hold of me, and he pitched an idea, said, Jack, we got this jogging stuff going on, and I know your background. You're really into it in the community and all. And can you come help us with some programming about health and fitness? I said, well, turned him down for about 6 months. Finally said yes, and it was fun. So Buddy started showing me how to interact with the camera and with others, and so I started to learn the ropes and did those health and fitness things for about 4 or 5 years. Sat on the desk. Oh my, back in the Stone Age when I got to tell you about some of that stuff, how those chyrons and everything worked in those days. It's pretty archaic compared to today.
Yes, it is.
But that's how it got started. When Sarkis Tarzan bought KTVN, they started negotiating in the 80s, and 81 it was finalized. And the Hirschland, who had started the program, it didn't start out with CBS, but it was at that time. And then Sarkis Tarzan took over. He brought in a new news director, Jim Ogle, who was a product of the University of Missouri, and it's like a football coach. He comes in, he wants to bring his own team. So
Sure.
All these new faces show up, and they were all educated at Missouri. And Jim used to bring in people consultants, don't put your lipstick on like that, comb your hair, and don't squint into, things like that. But more importantly, a fellow named Mackie Marg from University of Missouri came in, and he was talking about video storytelling, which I'd been doing right even before that time. That's how it got started. My heroes back in the 70s was Bob Dotson, Charles Kuralt, and they were doing a little bit more in depth, little mini documentaries, and was my style. And my editing style was different. Jim Ogle set the gold standard in the 70s for broadcast here in northern Nevada. It used to be, visualize Walter Cronkite on the desk like this. And all he does is talk into the camera and say, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and nothing else going on. Well, Jim introduced the live and other pictures being there that you talk to on the set. And then everybody else started copying us, and the rest is history. So that's how it got started.
Wow. And back then you were doing the health and fitness, and then you turned to start producing stories about travels throughout Nevada. How did that happen? Was that your idea? Did somebody suggest it? Where did it come from?
No, it's always been my idea. See, I born in L.A. and 46, right after the war, and Dad said, we're going to move to Reno. And I was only 4 years old. And I said, Dad, the Indians are going to get us on the way. I don't want to go. And they didn't. But so we landed here in 1950. So I've always, Nevada's been my home ever since, except for going to grad schools and being away and the Army and stuff like that.
Sure.
But no, I absolutely love Nevada. It's such a unique place. I used to kind of hold a grudge against the federal government. 87% of the state they own or something like that. Well, that turns out that's a good thing,
right,
because it's wide open spaces now. In other places, you go to Texas where it's 3% government owned, the rest is private property. You can't get out there unless by permission.
Right.
But no, I love Nevada. And growing up, in high school, I met the love of my life, and turned out she had come into Reno the senior years. She was a fifth-generation Nevada cowgirl, and she kind of introduced me to the ropes of what cowboys are out
literally.
like. Oh, yeah. I didn't like going. I said, let's go see Uncle Bill out the ranch this weekend. I said, do I have to go? Last time I was out there, I was shoveling manure and feeding, picking up 120-pound bales of hay. But no, I love Nevada and the people out there.
Jack, you're a man after my own heart. I think I would feel exactly the same way about going out to shovel. It's not my thing. Never been, but I do love having been able to visit all the places I've been able to visit through the Wild Nevada series. Now, what fascinated me, I assumed, having seen you for really a couple, probably decades now, doing these stories, I just assumed that you were a KTVN employee and a staff member on the news team, and this was your, these were the stories you went and did, and they were, your domain, but that you were one of the regular staff. And then I find out later, not even close, you are a professional. You are a doctor.
Well, I've had 4 careers. I'm down to 3. No, I retired, sold my practice 2 years ago. I had to do a 2-year overlap with a local practice who assumed all the charge, for HIPAA stuff and things like that.
Right. And so just for the listeners' sake and viewers who's watching on YouTube, what sort of a doctor have you been before?
Well, I went and got a degree in optometry, and then I went further and got the physician status, and practiced primarily with glaucomas and retinal problems, stuff like that. When I quit, literally, there's a couple of factors that kind of brought that on before I was planning on by about 4 years, what with the COVID stuff and everything. But it worked out pretty good because I moved out to, I still have a home in Reno, but I moved out to Eureka, Nevada. I have my middle daughter's out there with 3 of the grandkids, and I wanted to be closer. That also put me closer to going out and producing stuff in Wild Nevada.
Kind of perfect.
In northern and eastern Nevada, which I'd been neglecting for a while, for a good number of years. But 40 years of doing those stories. I've always, they say, well, where do you get your ideas? Well, everybody, you know this, everybody out there has a story.
Right.
And I don't do a travel log, or I don't do a historical piece, although a lot of history comes into the stories. But rather, let's talk about that little cowboy over there, and how come you're living out here at the ranch, and like becoming friends with the Monteros up at Leonard Creek. One of the stories, we're doing a 40-year special here. It's going to be probably, after we air it, it's probably going to be used to replace those that you've seen all the time.
Oh, okay. The current set of stories that we get after sports end on a weekend, and they got to fill a few minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is going back further. This is going back to day 1. I'll tell you about that first story.
Oh, that's exciting.
That I absolutely love. But I've used this line that little Trenton Montero told me when he was 5. We were out to Leonard Creek. I've got him sitting on the tailgate of his daddy's pickup truck. His dad, they've been cowboying out there in Humboldt County for 5-6 generations. And he said on the back, I was out there to do a story about these little kids, and it'll be in the special. And I asked Trenton, I said, well, how long you been doing this? And, real mature, very serious, kind of looks around and goes, well, I've lived here punching cows all my life. And he's 5 years old. So I have actually used that a couple of times. I'll tell you the story of a little Charlie Shota, 3.5. And I had her use that line too. Yes.
That's so sweet. I think I saw that one.
Probably 60 times in the last 3 years.
I think I've seen that one recently, like maybe last weekend. And
Probably,
it's never not cute.
Oh.
She is adorable.
You can't go wrong doing stories with animals or kids. You just can't go wrong.
Yeah, just don't get behind the animals if they're feeling like they want to kick you. That's the only way it can go bad. Or, if, the one time I got to ride a camel and learned about their breath.
Oh, was that up in Virginia City at the races?
It was out in the desert by Dayton where they shot The Misfits, the movie The Misfits. They had a camel riding business, and you could rent camels, and we took camel rides for the day for one of these episodes of Wild Nevada. This was in 2001, maybe. Uh-huh. And what I remember, or a couple of things. One, my camel did not want to go for a walk with me. It was the slowest. It was 100 yards behind the other two camels. It did not care. It was not interested in our agenda. It had its own plan. And secondly, it smelled like hot broccoli all the time, especially the breath. It was incredible, and I have never experienced anything like that before, and I don't wish to again. It was good to do it once, but I'm not running up to join the camel races, I'll tell you that.
No. I did a story on those people out there along Highway 50.
Yeah. Because
they provide the camels at that time. They may still do that to the camel races in Virginia City, and I did a story on them, and he said, well, don't walk around, look them in the eye, they'll spit on you, and don't go back there, they'll kick you, and you probably won't survive it. Yeah. Oh, okay.
They are very powerful animals.
Oh, yeah.
And man, when you're sitting on it and it kneels down and they've got it arranged and you sit there and you're supposed to be riding it, it's pretty obvious pretty quickly that you are allowed to be there by the camel. You don't have any control, really. It's going to do it at once. And I respected that. So my camel, I kicked it a little bit and said, yeah, and it said no.
Did you go on a line like a trail ride with horses?
We were following. It was just the three of us, the guide and Chris, the co-host, and me. And we went, and they were up together, riding along, having a great time. And I was sitting in the back waiting, and my camel was just loping along, just like, I'm not interested in this. I'm just going to do my thing. And eventually it caught up to them when they stopped. But it probably took an extra hour to finish that shoot just because of the one camel that I had who was just not into it. Not that into me. It hurt my feelings.
Oh.
Not too bad.
Well.
Not too bad. All right, so it was enough about me. Let's talk about you. You've done, I can't imagine, maybe you know exactly how many you've done over the years. Do you keep track?
Yeah, I not until recently I went back and looked at the logs and the journals and everything I've been keeping when they asked me to do this, because I did the health and fitness for about 6 years. And then going into those last couple of years doing that, I was starting to do these type programs too.
Okay.
And then I got pretty good at it, and CBS had me teaching to West Coast affiliates, Reno, Sacramento, Stockton, the Bay Area, Las Vegas, video storytelling, scripting, and my technique of editing, which is feathering, which you're familiar with. You can. My golden rule with editing is never use a jump cut. Although I've broken it twice, and both times without realizing it, till it was brought to my attention. And I said, by God, you're right. That guy was scratching this ear. 2 seconds later, he was scratching that ear. And how did he do that? It's magic.
Yeah. For the sake of those of you listening and watching, a jump cut is when you go from one shot to an almost identical shot or a very close shot because you have to for some reason, and it just looks jarring. Feathering, though, explain feathering. Okay,
well, when you edit, and even in the back today, I started right after filming 11, and we had some film editing equipment out there that wasn't being used when I started in '78, but the old 3/4 stuff with a 30-pound camera
Big,
and a
heavy.
25-pound recorder and big old cord, umbilical cord.
Everything was heavy then.
Golly, the camera I'm using now is that HD digital stuff, cinemascopic, and it weighs 1.7 pounds.
Right.
Old guy like me, I really appreciate it. But you look at your computer screen, you got obviously one video channel, and then you've got up to 4 or 5 audio channels. I use 2. And my voice and the people I'm talking with, they appear on channel 1, and then the nat sounds, our bridges and stuff, appear on channel 2. But to feather it, you would overlap the video or the person's voice, not with just a straight cut. It's non-linear, not a straight cut. And so that's feathering it, and it sort of makes it flow better. It's just sort of like a continuum from start to finish. And okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
You can mix in the sounds, the natural sounds of the location under the voice, and then that can carry you to the next comment if there's another comment.
And of course, you never fake anything. Although if I didn't like the sound of that crow, of course I'd go to our source and dub in a crow.
A good crow.
I'd go, a western black crow too.
Got to be accurate.
Got to be accurate, yeah.
Well, that's journalism. People have forgotten how that works these days, but it's real journalism, trying to be accurate. What do you know? So, what makes a good story? What do you look for, or do you look for them? Do they come to you? How do you decide?
Both. Mainly, I just sort of keep my like I say, everybody's got a story. When I was practicing, I talked to people. I never mixed careers. I had the military, retired 28 years, lieutenant colonel. That 20 years ago I retired, and then I had the journalism stuff and the presidency of Rite of Passage Corporation, but I never mix them. But I talked to people, and if I got somebody in the office that I think was kind of interesting, or I knew that they were a cowboy out in Humboldt County, and hey, I bet you know the Monteros, I bet you know the DeLongs out there, and the Marvels. Oh yeah, and they'd give me a story idea, and so off I'd go, and it wouldn't be unusual because I do the shooting, writing, everything. To drive 4 or 5 hours, go out there. You're talking about your time frame, an extra hour on a Campbell. I'd never done that, but minimum 2 hours on the ground, sometimes 4 in an area, and then 4 hours back to Reno and script, listen to it and script. And I spend about 4 hours editing every one of those 2-minute stories. And you know why? Because you want it to be acceptable.
Right. Well, then it's shocking to people who don't make video content like that, how long it takes to edit something. They think, it's 2 minutes long. It takes 2 minutes to make it. No. A lot more than that. And you're a one-man band, right? You do it all by yourself.
Pretty much. Now, when I started back in the days in the late 70s with that, I didn't, a novice. That wasn't my forte. I never studied or anything. So there were photographers that would go out with me. And I've had people come with me over the years also, which I really appreciate, especially back in the days when that stuff was so darn heavy.
Right.
And because, you can't shoot your own stand-up unless you, I have now, because I've been all by myself for the last several years, but you frame up a picture and then you run it, then you go stand in it, and then you come back and look at, oh God, I got to stand low. That's how you do it by yourself, but if someone's with you, it's not as time-consuming. But, just like John Tyson, I remember when John came to Channel 2, I think it was about 84, 85, somewhere in there. And Howard Rosenberg, who, was a professor up here and everything, and he did the program where he was a film critic, our entertainment guy. And, God, he got so mad at me one time because I was out in Never Land, 500 miles from here, and I did a little thing about somebody doing a stage production.
Okay.
And he says, Jack, that's my forte. You're stepping on my turf. I said, Well, the next time I'll let you drive 5 hours and do that story.
Yeah, really.
But he brought John around, said, Jack, I want to introduce you to, and John, I love that guy dearly. And he said, he's got a great voice, and I think he'd do well at this. And so we worked together for a little bit. I tell people, and I joke with John about it. I say, well, I tell everybody I taught John everything he knows and half what I do. And but he doesn't do broadcasts anymore. But
right.
That's when he came around. But
I think he's out conducting trains now.
Well, he's always done that. He's sort of like me. And I called up his house in Virginia City, well, maybe 20 years ago, and I said, "Where's John?" And the person that answered the phone, they yelled into the background. They said, "What hat did he have on today? A conductor hat, a cowboy hat, or his policeman hat?" And they said, "He had his cowboy hat on." Okay, well, he's over there. Yeah, I'm not that bad.
No, I think that's if your hat dictates your activity for the day, then I don't have much to choose from. I just have this one I would wear for the shows, and that's kind of it. So I had one hat. I don't understand this multi-hat thing. So now you're in Eureka now.
Right.
And as you say, that gets you closer to some of the subjects you would have normally gone out to shoot stories about anyway. But do you find that you're getting stories that are kind of coming to you even faster now because you're in the rural environment?
Well, I've always been in the rural environment. I've just had to drive further to get there.
Okay.
Yeah, but now, I mean, no one has asked me yet. I've been out there for 2 years, and no one has said, "Hey, how come 90% of your stories for the last 2 years are within a 100-mile radius of Eureka?" I said, "I don't know, just a coincidence, I guess." But there's a lot of great stuff out there.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I had one of your neighbors on this podcast not too long ago, Trina Mahachik. Do you know Trina?
Okay.
She is with she started up the Eureka County Star. That's the competitor for the Eureka Sentinel newspaper.
She keeps putting my name in there, and I said, "Will you stop doing that?" like when we had Lee, the horse logger, come through town, and that was a guy with a draft horse and his homemade wagon going across the country. And this was like the 6th time. And I was driving back to Eureka. I don't want to go someplace for a story unless people know I'm coming, but sometimes you fall into it. And I passed this guy on the highway, and here he's going. He's got a big caution sign on the back of his wagon, and it was a replacement wagon because he had just been clobbered by somebody going 50 miles before, and his horse wasn't hurt. He wasn't destroyed his wagon. Ooh. But when he came, so I took him under my wing and brought him into Eureka, although he continued on with his trailer and everything, and got him showered and cleaned up, and said, "Let's wash your clothes, please." And but then I told Trina, I said, "Well, he's coming into town. We're going to be in front of the Senior Citizen Center." She comes in, and then it's about him. My stories are not about me, and I don't want people writing about me. But she does an article, and she said, "Oh yeah, I want to thank Jack Sutton for arranging this for me, and it was great to see him there." And I was like, you wasted a paragraph, Trina, of your paper time.
Well, she's still new at this newspaper thing. It hasn't been that long.
She's doing a great job.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
She was a hoot. We had a good time. It was a lot of fun. She's a little wacky, and I appreciate that.
She's a one-lady show too.
Yeah, for sure.
She takes the pictures. Although where I'm living out there, I still have my home in Reno, but I've got a place on Spring Street, and it's right up against the foothills there. Eureka's in a little canyon.
Yep.
And the sun comes up. You look at, when's the sunrise? 6:30. Okay, so it's going to be shine on my house by 8:30. 2 hours later, it's going to get down there to you. So I was really, really close, and I'm right behind the Opera House, and so it's easy to get to things there. Walking distance.
I was going to say, part of what fascinates me, and I asked Trina about this, is, we visit on the Wild Nevada series. We would visit all over the state briefly, right? You get a taste of people's lives. You don't get in depth. And most of what we did was recreational travel. So it was mostly highway, road trip stuff.
Right.
Attractions, beautiful locations, hikes, bike rides, that thing. But never really any kind of daily life. We don't really get a sense of that. So I'm curious about that. Now that you're out there, what is it that you love about that life?
It's a rural community and it's a small town. And being born in L.A., raised in Reno, when I got out of high school, there was like maybe 40,000 people in the Reno-Sparks area. And now it's 10 times that,
Right.
almost 500,000. You go out there, and before I moved out, I was in town with the 4th of July parade with my family. And I said, well, Jen, how many people live in this town? And she said, oh, about 600. And I said, oh, you're pulling my leg. Where are they? It looks deserted most of the time, but they come out, and they all come in from the ranches and the mines for things like that. But just the quietness of it. And you drive around and people don't know you, but they wave. Here you come, they wave at you. So I'm a waver now.
Right.
Do you remember the waver?
Oh, yeah.
Oh God. So I don't
his
go out.
name was Ed, right?
Yeah.
I remember that guy.
He died about 9-10 years ago.
Yeah. For those who don't know what we're talking about, there was a guy who would walk up and down the highway between Reno and Carson City every day.
Every day.
And just wave at cars. And people would wave back at him, and it's Ed the waver.
And they felt better about doing it.
Yeah, it made them happy.
This guy, he's not giving me the one finger salute. He's waving.
You got all 5 fingers every time.
But people wave, and we don't have any signal lights in town. There's a few stop signs on the side streets coming in, and 25 miles an hour through town. You learn to know everybody. It's pretty cool.
That sounds very appealing. Yeah.
Say, well, what's the traffic? I come back to Reno. No, I love Reno. It's still Reno.
Sure.
We had 500 kids in my high school class. Half of them still live here, or if they moved away for a career, they're back now. And Reno's still Reno. It's still a small town, but the traffic is different. And I'll say, well, you know what a traffic jam is like in Eureka? If Rancher Conley's bull gets out of his pen, stands down in the middle of the highway, that's a traffic jam.
Right. Different world.
It is.
And even here still, we had a recent visit from for a funder luncheon. The station had a thank you event for major donors because they're very important to public television.
Where is my invitation?
I must have lost it. I'm so sorry.
It's in the mail.
It must be still there. It's a long way to Eureka. It's in between.
By
Pony Express.
We get the mail quicker by Pony Express. I'm not going to say anything about the postal service, but yeah.
So this is we had a guest come in from Boston. And that in driving that guest around, I joked about the fact that there's not really traffic by Boston standards here. There is about an hour and a half in the morning and in the afternoon, and that's about it. But even that is not remotely what you would consider traffic in your original hometown in L.A. or in a major city. So we're still pretty lucky. But compared to Eureka, sure. Compared to Eureka, this is busy.
When I was put together that documentary film company, we did 7 documentaries over about a 10-year time period. God, that was just too much work, though. But one time, it was on collecting the Old West. And so we went down to the Autry Museum in Burbank.
Oh, yeah, Gene Autry.
Yeah. He had passed by that time, but people were showing me around, and I had 2 cameras, guys with me and everything. I love it. Like I say, it was just too much time-consuming with other activities. But about 2 in the morning, we finished up, and the guy said, I know the best barbecue place in town, but we got to go over to West Hollywood or someplace, and so we'll just hop on the freeway here and get over there. 2 in the morning, we're on the freeway, going 5 miles an hour, bumper to bumper. And I'm thinking, what a life.
Yeah, you were probably glad to leave when it was time to go home. Wow. So, all right. So we're almost out of time. A couple things. I'm curious. Do you go exploring on your own in your free time, or is it always for stories?
Pretty much for a story. Like I say, I want people to know I'm coming. This very first story, we're going back 40 years, that will be in the special is about Bertha Cliff Scott. And her daughter was a patient of mine way back in the day. And I said, how's everybody? She said, well, Bertha's not doing well. She's in a nursing home now. She's 103 years old. I said, oh, my God, what did she do? So she told me, visualize the opening scene to Bonanza, and the fire comes out of the map.
Yeah.
Her ranch for her grandparents set up in Washoe Valley was right where that fire comes out, and in the 1860s. And they were friends with the Winters people who were out there at the same time. But she went to Nevada, the university. Graduated with a teaching degree back when they called it the Nevada Normal College. And I said, normal? You mean, is there an abnormal college? Well, that's just, it's from a French word, éclair normal, and meaning a higher institution, but they teach things the normal way and the normal curriculum. And that's what they called everybody back in those days. She taught in Dayton, Carson City, and then, so I just had to go out and see her. I interviewed her, got a bunch of family pictures, and, you do dissolves these days. You push the button. Okay, I want this. Right. That was in the day where we had a 3/4 tape in one deck, 3/4 tape in the other. You had to start them at the same time with 2 levers. And so I got a dissolve of her face when she's like 6 years old, and I dissolved same head size into how she looked at 103. It really worked cool.
That is cool.
But she's going to be in there. Some of the stories I just fall into. I was parked. You keep, give me a high sign if I'm going too long.
No, you're good.
I'm good. Parked in Austin one day. I was visiting James Graham when he had the trading post there. He's a bottle collector, and I collect bottles from him. Parked across the street. I get back in my truck, and this pickup comes behind me, and one old Toyota. It looked like it'd been out there in the dust for 80 years, with Nevada pinstriping on it and mud everywhere. And this guy gets out with a long, long beard, about 2 feet long, that was all dreadlocks. And he comes walking up, hits my window, said, "Are you the guy I'm supposed to catch up to?" And I thought, oh my God, I hope not. And he said, "No, I don't think so." He was supposed to meet somebody there about some property or something. Okay. So we got to talking, and I go, "You've been around here for a while?" So off we go, and we went down to where their train depot. We got a story done about him talking about the train depot.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and
they come from everywhere. The stories come from everywhere.
Another guy in that town, Gaber Nagy, I'm going to put him in. No teeth. He died at about age of 95-ish, and he was from Austin also. I was driving through, and here's Gaber sitting over there. You know how on the one side of the road, they got the overhang and the old buildings and the benches. He's sitting there eating something. So like, oh, God, something's going on. Stopped, walked over there. "Gaber, how are you?" He said, "Hi, Chuck. What are you doing?" I said, "Well, let's talk here." So I made a story about the sidewalk philosopher, and it was Gaber.
Nice.
And he's sitting there eating prunes, and he's watching the cars going by, bitching about it.
Right.
"Look at how fast that lady's going." She's going the speed limit. "Look how fast that lady's going." And I said, "Well, how come you're eating so many prunes, Gaber?" And he said, "Oh, well, these keep me regular." He's gumming these prunes. Right. Thank God the seeds weren't in there. And he said, "Jack, you have 3 or 4. You don't want to eat too many, or they're going to give you the shits." and I said, "Really?" And I said, "Gaber, can you rephrase that? I can't use that line."
Right.
"You can. Yeah, you can."
Yeah, sure.
But, yeah. And he said, "You don't want to eat too many because they're going to give you diarrhea really bad." I said, "Well, okay, I'll use that."
There you go.
But yeah, that's old Gaber. Yeah.
Well, appreciate him editing himself for television. Well done, Gaber. All right, so this is all part of the 40th anniversary show that you're working on. Do you know yet when it will be visible, when it will be on the air?
We're behind schedule because of this being an election year.
Sure.
And everybody got, redirected, of course.
Right. All your focus is on that.
Oh, yeah. Well, mine wasn't.
Right.
But, theirs was. Theirs was. Yeah.
So it's coming up in 25 sometime?
Oh, yeah. Well, I hope to, I had to turn in a list today of the stories. We went back and with what Channel 2 could do with their archives, and what a friend of mine, Patrick Kennedy, who was involved in that production company, he has the equipment to move any format, even film. I said, "I don't have any film, but the 3/4 stuff and the 1/2" and the SP stuff and the disc." So he moved all these stories into, digitized them.
Nice.
So now I turned those in. I turned in the names, but there's one person whose name did not appear in my script. Her name of her horse did, nor the script is, in the dust of the archives.
Dustbin of history.
Oh, yeah, it's disappeared. But she was a nurse in the Dayton area, And she met me up in 6 Mile Canyon. She had a big, beautiful 14-hand, solid white horse with black spots on it, and the horse was totally blind. And she had trained that horse with her body posture, with her voice, with the controlling the reins, with the pressure from her knees and feet. She was galloping full speed across the hills in 6 Mile Canyon.
Wow.
You would never know that horse, and I'm going to use that story, even if I don't want to. If I have to make up, I'll call her. I know her first name is Jennifer, so I'm just going to say Jennifer, the trainer, and that's not.
That's fair.
That's fair.
It's still accurate.
Well, it's accurate, but if I make up something, even I have called every vet, every farrier within 100-mile radius of that canyon, and nobody really records. I should start calling the hospital. She was a nurse, and because if I put something on there, it's not accurate. You're going to get called on it.
Somebody knows.
Hey, that's my Aunt Bertha, and you guys really screwed it up.
Right. Isn't that the way? You can't find the person you need to get it right before you make it, and then you'll hear about it if you get it wrong.
Yeah.
That person that you needed will come out of the woodwork after the fact and say, hey, you screwed this up, buddy.
Yeah.
And you're like, where have you been?
It's too late.
Thanks for nothing. All right. So we'll look for that. Maybe come back when it's finished, and we can talk about some of your favorite pieces that'll be on there.
So when I did those other two, like I say, I put a coat. I don't wear a tie. I put a jacket on. I stood there for an hour, and the red lights on the camera. You talk, it goes off. They're running. So we just ran it like a newscast, and it was one take, and they put together.
Sure.
And I don't know how we'll do this because I've got a different producer on it. A real nice young lady who's a couple of years out of grad school. But I don't know how they're going to do it. But I'm not going to stand there for an hour, and I'm not going to wear a sports coat. And I said, well, let's go out and out there in the sticks and talk about it. Sure.
Yeah, loads of great backgrounds out there. I know this to be true. Even someone like me can look okay when you've got a beautiful scenery behind you.
I think I've seen maybe 1.5 of your programs. And the one half I did see was about the shoe tree.
Yes.
And I've never done anything about that because I thought it was an abomination that people threw
their shoes on it.
And then some guy, you know the story about it getting cut down.
Cut it down.
He had an argument with his girlfriend or his wife, and he went out there and he cut that tree down. How did that tree offend you?
Right. And then people started using the one that used to be next to it, and that's the new one.
Yeah.
And
it's dead now.
Is it? Of course. That was the very first show we ever did, actually.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that was the first day of the first show we ever did in the year 2000. So that's why I look so old now, because I'm 24 years older than that. So, yowza.
Long.
Yeah. So, but thanks for watching one. Was that the one or the half? You said you watched one and a half.
No, I saw it the whole time you were standing there talking about the shoot tree, and I drive past it a lot, and I go, I'm never going to talk about that because I just don't like the fact that all those shoes are up there.
Yeah, fair enough.
I love cottonwoods, and they're great, turning yellow in the fall. This one looks like it's half a Christmas tree.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. We got to get out of here. We'll keep our eyes open for the 40th anniversary special, and let's maybe reconnect at that point and talk about that when it's ready to be seen. I'd love to talk about it.
Happy to come back. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. All right, Jack Sutton. I want to remind everybody to watch Wild Nevada on PBS Reno via broadcast or by streaming on pbsreno.org or by YouTube channel. We have the PBS Reno YouTube channel. If you have a question about Wild Nevada or maybe a comment or suggestion, send them to me at podcasts@pbsreno.org. Now, my thanks to Jack Sutton, and I want to say thank you for listening to Wild Nevadacast.